Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Thursday, December 2nd. I'm Gary Stevens. It is the first Thursday of the month, which means at this time we get a monthly chat on law enforcement with the sheriff of Allegan County, Frank Baker. He is on the other side of our Zoom connection this morning. Frank, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary.
Glad you are with us. And if you have a question for Sheriff Baker, he'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Frank, before we go any further, I explained to our audience a little while ago, one of the things I do when I prepare for a segment with a guest is we try to get a website connected with the guest to have it linked. We put a link to it in the description of the podcast at WHTC.com. Well, I went to AlleganCounty.org, which I thought I had it bookmarked on my browser, and it says it was an error. So I Googled Allegan County and clicked on the link that was connected to the Google. And I'm finding the website looks refreshed. It's long overdue, Frank. I know it's not your province, but you're the first Allegan County official I'm talking to about this. It looks nice.
Well, good. I'm glad it does. I was afraid you were going to tell me that it didn't come up at all because we did just implement a complete remake of the website. I wasn't a part of that committee and team that worked on that, but obviously we offered some input and some ideas that we would like to see change. So want to make it a little easier for people to navigate, to be able to find the information that they're looking for, and as as things change, the better ways of doing it, and hopefully that's going to be the case with this. But I know there were some technical difficulties, which often happen with that type of technology, that the rollout didn't go quite as smooth as anticipated. But like I said, I was truly surprised that you said you can get to it, because I was thinking you're going to tell me that it was still down. So yeah. It sounds like they've made those improvements and got it up and running.
It was good to see, and I've got the page up right now. We'll put a link to the new webpage when we put the podcast of our conversation with Sheriff Baker on our webpage at WHTC.com a little later on this morning. If you have a question about law enforcement, Sheriff Frank Baker will be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Frank, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up this subject. Your compatriot in Oakland County, Mike Bouchard, has had to deal with a school shooting situation in Oxford. 4 are dead. Charges have been filed against the suspect. It is the worst nightmare coming true in that particular community. And I know that your office deals with not only the local police departments that are involved, but also with the schools as well, for just unfortunately a situation as what we saw in Oxford earlier this week.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I can't even imagine what the families over there are going through right now. This is a very serious issue. We take it very serious. Just looking at the way police respond to these situations, that changed years ago. And after the incident in Colorado at Columbine, our training at that time was that, patrol officers responded, secured the perimeter, and awaited SWAT teams and people that are better prepared with equipment and training to be able to respond to an active shooter situation. But, after that, obviously lessons learned, that was not the way to handle it. And so we do things a lot differently today. We obviously train much more in regards to what would we do, how would we respond, and we also include the school staff in that, because they're a key part of this. In the last few years, I've actually worked with our SWAT team commander, our emergency management director. We try to get the best training that we can for them. Even I've suggested working with the fire departments, because we got to look at who's going to be available to respond. And Allegan County is a large county. We're spread out. We're not going to have all the resources that we have right there immediately available if a tragedy like this were to occur. So we're trying to find ways that even with limited resources, we can respond and develop protocols for what we would do in the event of, a tragedy like this. So it's something that's continuously being evaluated, continuously being looked at, and we're always looking for best practices to see what we could do better.
Yeah, but it might be a situation, Frank, that no amount of training, no amount of preparation can be able to stop every single situation. This might be the case, and we don't know yet for certain. We're still learning more about the Oxford case, but there might be, I don't know if there is a fail-safe way of dealing with this right now.
No, and we've heard, lots of ideas, and some of them good, some of them not so good. But like you say, you can never anticipate or plan for exactly what the scenario that you're going to be presented with, and you have to be able to adapt and try to do what you can to respond and deal with it. And like I say, it's truly unfortunate that these types of events occur. And but we do what we can to make sure that we can make sure our schools are as safe as possible. But whenever something like this happens, I mean, it's undoubted we're going to have many more conversations. I know I talked with, and I know you're familiar with Scott Corbin, our emergency management director. And I know he was inundated with emails and text messages and phone calls after this because, when it happens, everybody says, you know what, let's go look at our plan again. Let's go look at what training we have done again. Let's look at what maybe we can learn or what lessons we can learn from this so that we can make our community and our schools safer. So those discussions, like I say, have been kicked off again as a result of, unfortunately, another tragedy.
And another byproduct of this, although not as tragic, but we are seeing in the Detroit area and in the Southeast Michigan area, 3 districts already having to cancel classes today. Another one has a police presence at it because of threats being made, either social media, phone in, which is the old quaint way of doing things, or just rumors. When we have an instance such as this, the copycats come in, and you can't take any chances, but you know that these are just copycats trying to, capitalize on the situation.
Yeah, and I mean, what we don't hear is the times that we're dealing with threats and situations like this that are not, necessarily front page news. It's because of the event in Oxford there that rose that attention. Now we hear about these other ones. Just the day before, we ended up having a situation where we had to alert the schools, work with the schools to a threat that was made here in Allegan County, and we take these very serious. So if somebody makes a comment like that, we become aware of it. It's important that we follow up and respond. And that's why it's important for students and parents, if they hear these things, to notify police so that we can take the steps that we can to make sure that we can prevent some type of, or to what extent we can prevent something like this from happening.
One other thing, and then I'll move on, Frank Baker, is this. Sometimes, I don't know whether or not you can comment on this or not, sometimes the threats that are made and it's investigated at someone in the district, and eventually, you're able to, come to some sort of, ground zero on this. Other times it's a case of somebody from another part of the country or even international wanting to create a swatting situation. And I'm thinking of a few years ago with the British boy Ransom the Thug, who made all these threats and just wanted to swat. And they finally, they caught him in Liverpool, but it's like, sometimes it's local, sometimes it's just somebody trying to get their jollies.
Yeah, and we had a case of something similar to that earlier this year, in which somebody had used they were able to hack into somebody's email, send an email making a threat. In fact, I was named as one of the people involved in this, and fortunately, we have now the technology and the training with some of our investigators to readily look into these situations. One of the things that was suspicious was, if somebody's going to make this type of a threat, why would they use their own email? So it could take us right to their front door, which is what occurred. And we found out it was somebody trying to impersonate that person to get that person in trouble. But, when you start involving statements regarding what's going to happen at schools, and we take it very serious. So we're going to use all the resources we have to find out what is it? Is it truly a threat? Is it just something where somebody's saying something they shouldn't? or is it, like you mentioned, Gary, a swatting type incident? So they're serious now. It used to be, kind of the old sticks and stones. You didn't take it that serious when people just made comments, but in today's age, we have to take it serious. So we look into it, we investigate it, and we put the resources we have at trying to determine the truth and what really is going on.
616-395-1450. If you have a question for Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, he'll be happy to take it at 616-395-1450. I have a story from our statewide wire this morning, and I want to see whether or not Allegan County is involved with this. Police agencies around the state are cracking down on speeding until the end of February. Officers say there have been a 22% reduction in traffic crashes from 2019 to 2020. But crash deaths are up 10%. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says crashes on a road with a speed limit above 65 miles an hour is over twice as likely to cause a death than with a 45 to 50 mile per hour speed limit. Is Allegan County Sheriff's Department involved with this increased intervention, crackdown on speeding that apparently some other agencies statewide are involved with?
Yeah, to what extent, I'm not sure, Gary. I have a sergeant that's assigned to setting up, whenever we can get any kind of grant money, setting up overtime shifts. I know we do have some. I'm not sure if it's specifically related to that, but we do have some coming up. But one of the things you mentioned, though, is occurring here as well. Even though we saw a decline in fatalities over, the last decade, in the last 2 years, though, our numbers have spiked up tremendously. Our 2020 numbers for fatalities, I believe, were up 20 or 25%. I'd have to look at the number to be sure, but it was one of the things that was that we looked at in doing our annual report and review of what's taking place. But one of the things that we're seeing is it's the distracted driving is kind of one of the key pieces. About a year ago in December, we had one of those really nice sunny December days. And we had 2 fatalities on the freeway at the same time going on, plus another serious crash that could have been a fatality. And then within a week later, we had another fatality on 196 on the other side of the county on a beautiful December sunny day. And, usually you anticipate in the winter months we're going to have some crashes due to weather-related incidents, but these are days where the pavement's dry, it's sunny out. And, through our investigation, it's distracted driving. I mean, you've got so many opportunities to be distracted in a car now, and it is dangerous. And that's one of the reasons why we crack down on the texting and driving, and why we look at, different public service announcements to kind of remind people that you got to take this serious.
Frank, as we are talking in the Christmas season, it's festive. A lot of people are trying to get their goodies, try to rush home with their treasures, but there are some safe tips that can definitely help them to be able to get their gifts home to belong to people instead of somebody else taking it away from them.
Yeah, one of the things, Gary, we see in December, obviously, because of the Christmas holiday coming up, is we see an increase in crime that's occurring in the parking lots of our big box stores. We see it on the porches of our homes. Kind of a new term that we came up with. I'm not sure where it originated, but we call them Porch Pirates. The people that see the Amazon delivery or the UPS delivery and the box is sitting on the front porch and they drive by and steal it. Used to be it was out of the mailboxes because they knew grandma and grandpa sent the grandkids a few dollars in the mail, and they would go through your mail looking to see if they could snag one of those. But now it's literally the Porch Pirates that are a big problem for us. And so we have a few tips on how to keep your shopping safe. One of the things that we do recommend is that if you are going to be doing your Christmas shopping, try to do so in the daylight hours. It's going to make it safer for you. And one of the things that we recommend is when you're walking to and from your vehicle, have your car keys out in your hand. Oftentimes we have the key fobs, they have the panic button on those. So if somebody does approach you, make an attempt at maybe taking your purse or taking your packages, you can hit the key fob, maybe alert some help. Another thing we recommend is just having your cell phone with you and having it charged up. So in the event that you do unfortunately need to call 911, you can make that call quickly, and hopefully we'll have a deputy or somebody in the area that can respond. Avoid carrying large amounts of cash with you. Obviously, that's one of the things that people are going to be after. So avoid having large amounts of cash. Guys, maybe put your wallet in the front pocket so you're less likely to be pickpocketed. Ladies, please keep an eye on your purse. Sometimes you have a tendency, maybe I know when I shop with my wife, she sets it in the shopping basket. Maybe she'll be looking at something, and that's an opportune time for somebody to walk up and snatch a purse. Another thing that we see a lot is vehicles that get broken into. People put their Christmas gifts in the back seat, or they put them in the vehicle so that everybody can walk by and see what's sitting there on the seat, and they just can quickly bust a window out and grab your packages. So if possible, at least keep them out of sight. Throw a blanket or something over them, because it's one of those things, they don't know it, they're less likely to break in, even though you may have something very valuable sitting underneath that blanket. And then in regards to the Porch Pirates, and some of the tips we have for that is, you might consider having one of those video doorbells. People can recognize those and see what it is. So hopefully if somebody does approach your porch, sees that, maybe they'll think twice about taking that package off of it. Another thing that we're starting to see is these delivery boxes, where you can have a box on that's secured that the delivery person can drop the package into, and it shuts and locks back so that people just can't have easy access to your packages. Another thing is, because it gets dark so early now, is consider motion activated lights, so that if somebody approaches your house, the lights come on and may alert them and may spook them off, so that you're less likely to be victimized. And one of the best things you can do, obviously, is to make arrangements for somebody either to be there to get the package as soon as it's delivered, or to make arrangements for a friend to maybe come over and pick it up, or a neighbor. I know now you can get alerts on your phone when the package is delivered, so that you can make that maybe extra call to a friend or neighbor or relative or somebody to come over and get it off your porch before somebody could snag it from you. So those are just a few of the things that we'd suggest that you do to help make your holiday season safer and more enjoyable.
One thing I was told a few years ago, or I heard a few years ago, is this is more for identity than anything else. Some people try, especially in a rural situation, to try to make sure that if they're going to have company coming over, be able to know where their house is and all that. Sometimes they put their name on the mailbox. That's not a good idea, because people can, let's just say, they have ways of getting identities from that situation.
Yeah, like say, we don't necessarily ask that you get your name on the mailbox, but we certainly want you to put that number out there, because for first responders, being able to, whether it's police, ambulance, fire, being able to see that number large and readily able for us to see it is the biggest benefit that we have. Not necessarily the name as much, but we need that number on the mailbox, so that, especially if you can't see it on the house.
And one final thing, I know that last weekend, the snowfall. And we didn't really have a first major snowfall of the season. We normally have it in, say, early to mid-November, where everybody's got to get their winter driving boots in. This was more gradual. And let's just say everybody got their winter driving things in last Friday and over the past weekend, I would think, Frank.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where in law enforcement, we don't look forward to those first few snows when people are a little rusty on their winter driving, and it's kind of one of the things that gets joked with the road patrol is I hope I'm off on the day we get our first snow, but one of the things I do have a couple tips on is one of them is just to help make it easier for our dispatch centers, because they get inundated with phone calls on those types of days. And one of the things that you might see is when you see a vehicle that slid off the road, we appreciate the concern and the effort to take the time to call dispatch, notify us that there's a vehicle off the road, because obviously it's a dangerous situation for people that are inside. So what we do is if we respond to one of those vehicles, we'll take police tape, we'll tie it to the antenna, we'll tie it to the doorknob, we'll tie it in a way that you can see it as you're driving by, that there's police tape tied to that vehicle, so that if you see it, you know that we've checked the vehicle, that there's nobody inside, that if there is somebody inside, they have help on the way, and so that you don't have to take your eyes off the wheel or your eyes off the road to make a phone call to dispatch to notify us. So that'll help reduce some of the calls coming into the dispatch center. It also help make your trip a little safer. But obviously, there's a lot of the standardized the tips that we always tell everybody every year. The first thing is slow down. Your car isn't going to stop as easy as it did on the dry pavement. And the other thing is to know your brakes. You know, whether they're anti-lock brakes or not, know how to threshold brake, because as soon as you hit the brakes hard enough, which is the natural instinct when you think you're going to slide into something, is to hit the brake harder, thinking that the car is going to stop better. And what happens is you lose your ability to steer the vehicle. You know, if you're doing the threshold braking, you're stopping actually as quicker than you would be if you lock the brakes. And you can still steer away from somebody if you were to, you know, come into the back of a car or a car was coming at you. So the biggest things is slow down, know your brakes, and then leave a bigger distance when you're following somebody than what you're used to. Increase that greatly, because it's going to take you a little longer to slow down and stop on these icy, snowy roads.
Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, thank you very much. Have a happy and safe holiday. We'll talk next month.
Sounds good, Gary. Thank you.